Welcome to the H.I.T podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As we do every week, we are dropping into your feed with what I hope are bite-sized, digestible, well-curated conversations going on in the space. This week's episode will be no exception. This week's episode is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions. And without any further ado, I bring on not only super impressive man, but my buddy JVB, Joe Van Brussel. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Toby. Thank you for having me.
Dude, I'm so glad to have you on. And what's interesting is that I come across a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn and I'm just impressed in general at everything you have going on. I was like, wait, I know that guy. I bet I could call in a favor and he would come out for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now I'm on the West Coast. When I saw your message popped up in my LinkedIn inbox, it was 100 times better than most of the messages I get on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, a good chance to reconnect, to have a good chat. So
I love it, man. Well, talk me through a little bit of your professional CVs just for the audience to know. And, listen, if you don't name drop, I will, HuffPo, New York Times. Go on.
Sure. So I studied English and philosophy as an undergrad at Loyola Marymount University. I went on to get my master's degree in political studies and political philosophy. I say that because I sort of bring that philosophical lens or sort of style of thinking to a lot of the work I do now and a lot of the writing I do. I came back to LA for a few years, bartended in Venice Beach, had a great time.
Love it.
I eventually got a job in New York as a reporter for the Huffington Post. At the time, the Huffington Post was a big up-and-coming media company. We were learning about SEO and social media and how to get people to find things that you wrote on the internet. Yeah. It was sort of the wild, wild west at the time. And for the last 14 years, I've been working in a variety of media companies as a writer, editor, creative director, content director. And now I'm writing and editing and doing my thing.
That's amazing, dude. And I didn't get the New York Times out of you, but New York Times is on that list in there as well. One of the things that we were talking about a little bit before the cameras heated up was AI. And everyone's talking about artificial intelligence and LLMs and how they interact with them in their world. And I just thought your vantage point in the way and the spaces in which you interact with it is super fascinating. And so I just wanted to ask you, maybe to start us off, talk to me a little bit about how and where you interact with AI.
Sure. Yeah, so my primary approach to AI is really as a writer. So as a creative worker, someone who works in a creative field, I do a mixture of marketing and advertising and then some editorial byline work. And so every time I think about AI, it's how is AI not only impacting our creativity and our ability to formulate and express original thinking, but also how's it affecting the industry as a whole, other industries to an extent. I sort of observe and I like to talk to people about that, but really it's about how is AI impacting our creativity, our ability to connect to one another, our relationships, our ability to express ourselves, and then how we approach our work. So every time I think about AI, it's really from this writing philosophical lens, but also trying to track the current trends that we're seeing and then think about if these trends were to continue, what is the world going to look like?
Great. So all of those rhetorical questions, I want your answer. How is AI impacting our creativity?
Yeah, so in a few different ways. A lot of the times it depends on how people choose to use AI. And so one thing I'm really focused on are what are use cases of AI that feel off, and then what are use cases of AI that feel like, okay, there might be something there. And so to give a few examples on either side, one sort of negative example I see people doing a lot is using AI kind of carelessly or as a crutch. Mm-hmm. So that means, I want to write something on LinkedIn or Substack, or I want to create something at work, and I know the AI is going to do it in a much easier way. And so I'm going to default to the path of least resistance. I'm going to use AI to knock out this job in a much faster way. The problem there is that people are sort of offloading their thinking. They are outsourcing their ability to think critically, to communicate with others, to really think through or formulate an argument. And so I get really worried when I see things like that. On the positive side, there are some use cases. The one that comes to mind right now is folks using it to sort of steelman or strengthen an argument. Mm-hmm. So as opposed to using it to speed up or skip steps in a process, once you've completed your work, you're using AI to kind of stress test your argument. You're asking AI, where are the gaps in my argument? Where are the weak points? How can I strengthen this? The risk there, or the concern I have, is that really makes your life harder, right? you do the entire job, and then you use AI at the end for this sort of extra step to get that other
But might someone
level.
at some point have used an editor or someone for that anyways? Is that part really that different?
Yes, but I would argue that like to sit down with an editor with a piece of work and have that conversation is an infinitely more rewarding experience than for a bot. And it's a really good question you ask. There's a few reasons for that. One is that, as we've seen already, a lot of LLMs and AI tools are engineered to increase engagement. That's like one of their primary incentives, right?
Now you're really thinking like an author. Blah, 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 blah.
Right? And you see stuff, people share things sometimes, like, here's what my AI said about me, and it's like this glowing, like, personal review, and I'm like, yeah, it's built to do that.
Literally,
like, that's not some objective truth.
I bet your dog was happy to see you when you walked in the door also.
Yeah,
That doesn't
right.
make you a good man.
We don't take that as a judge of
That's
character.
right.
I mean,
That's
maybe at least you're not mistreating your dog,
You
but
could still probably be happy to see. Like, I'm not like, some dogs are amazing. They're the best.
so yeah, you're right. I mean, LLM is basically like a robot dog, right? It's just always happy to see you. No, but so the issue there is that they're a little bit sycophantic, so they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Their ability to provide kind of that personal reaction isn't quite there yet. But you're right. Like, part of that might have been done by an editor in the past. But what I'm worried about is people sort of defaulting or using AI because it's the easiest thing, because it tells them what they want to hear as opposed to like having genuine pushback. And at the end of the day, it's not a personal, unique perspective. It's an aggregate perspective based on whatever information that it's sort of.
So I'm really worried I'm going to inadvertently tell kids to get off my lawn. But like, when I look at this stuff, I have a generational concern. And I think that, like, again, at the risk of sounding like an old man about this, I'd be curious to hear your perspective. And maybe it's a pendulum and maybe it's swinging the other way and young people are rebuking it. But giving someone the warm water and the easy way out early in their life. So now it didn't come to them at 40 and 50 where they had a ton of good habits already built in. Do you have concerns about the next generation, more like heavier concerns, or like, is it like, oh boy, I don't love where we're going, or just like, no, we're all kind of, we all need to listen up? I don't know. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I want to address something you said earlier too. At the beginning, you said, I don't want to sound like someone who's yelling at the kids. But I think that that's a really key insight. And I think it's something that a lot of people are feeling, and it's separating people into two camps. There's folks who are experimenting with AI and seeing how AI is rolling out and feel genuine concerns like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And they're feeling pressure to kind of like keep that down or to repress those feelings because they don't want to come across as the guy yelling at the kids on their lawn. And so then there's a lot of other folks on the other side who are saying like, I don't want to be seen as a Luddite. I don't want to get left behind. I don't want my company to view me as like a crotchety old person who doesn't want to change. And so I'm really going to lean into this technology, embrace and show people I'm using it. That's not really like the right place to come at something from, right? Like we shouldn't be like, ooh, this doesn't feel right. Like, which side am I going to choose? We need to have honest conversations. We need to be smart about how we're doing it so that people aren't either labeled like, hey, just get with it. Like, this is happening now. Like, you need to embrace it. Or like, oh, AI is great. It's making my life better and making everything more efficient. Yeah. So I think it's an instinct that a lot of people are feeling. Now, to the second part of your question, am I concerned about like the next generation? Like, yeah, a big time. It makes me think back, a few decades ago, it was like calculators, right? Like they give out calculators in school. Everyone's like, well, as the next generation, they're not going to be able to do math. Oh, forget it. Why would you need to do math? We have calculators now. But I think like most people can agree, like not being able to do basic math is, that's not a great thing, right? Sure. So yeah, we have calculators now, but like, I think it's important to be able to do basic math, not just for writing a check at a restaurant or doing your taxes, but for all sorts of situations. That's a skill that we've kind of lost that would probably be better if we had. So it's something we want to be intentional about. Now with AI, it's taken to a whole bigger like extent, right? Like it's a order of magnitude more serious. And I'm very concerned that you see, like I had a college professor responding to one of my posts recently saying like she didn't know what to do with essays and assignments in college. Right. And I totally like understand that. If I was in college and I had access to these tools, that would be really hard. There'd have to be really good structures in place. I'm a philosophy guy. I'm a moral person, I think. Nevertheless, that would be like a tough sort of temptation to have to deal with. And I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with that. Yeah. But to expect a whole generation of kids to just not use the magical tool that's going to write your essay for you is really tough. Now, the last thing I'll say is, yes, I am concerned for the next generation, for their ability to think critically, for their ability to value creative output and intellectual pursuits. Yeah. Just imagine coming up, if AI continues to get better, which I think it will, in 10 years, if your kids are in their teens, if my daughter is, 13, 14 years old, and there's something that can pretty much mimic or replicate most intellectual pursuits. Like, are they going to feel motivated or like it's worth it to invest a lot of time into developing those skills? And it's just, it feels uncertain. But I'm not just concerned about the next generation. I'm also concerned about us, right? Our skills will atrophy. Like, yeah, maybe we developed our critical thinking, but if you stop using that, it's going to go away. And if people start using these tools too much or in the wrong ways, then a lot of people are going to lose those capacities.
So you talked about like a dichotomy of thought a moment ago, and I have that, right? Because I remember like I read some story somewhere that like when books were first coming out, they thought this was going to rot children's brains, right? Because it's like, nah, you need to have imaginative play and stuff. And then, you can go back to like Socrates quoting like, this next generation are bums, and back in my day, it was like, we've always been saying that. And largely you could argue we've been fine, right? I don't think books rotted our brains. And if so, then this is what post brain rot looks like. I don't know. And we don't tend to regress on technology. It's not like as far as I know, that we've ever really tried out a tech, leaned into it, and then went, that's not the right direction. Forget this whole car thing. Let's just go back to horse and buggy, right? As a society, obviously there's, people that still horse and buggy, but like generally speaking, we move forward. And so I'm like, well, I wonder if 10, 20 years from now, these types of conversations are going to make you sound like just a million years old, like two people born in the 1900s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. And there's two things to it, right? Like one, this conversation repeats itself every time a new technology comes out. Right. And every time a new technology comes out, the current generation says, well, this time it's different. And then you're right. In hindsight, it wasn't that different. Everything sort of proceeded as normal. But I'll point to two things that I think make this conversation a little bit different. One is that if you look at the most recent big technological movements, there actually is a difference where I think about like the computer. What was that, 30 years ago, right? I don't think we feel too negatively about the computer. That seems like mostly a net positive technology.
Sure.
But you go a little bit further, you start thinking about social media. Yeah. Social media is the next big movement, and that seems pretty clearly negative now.
Yeah.
All the things that social media promised haven't come to pass,
right?
And there's a lot of significant emotional and psychological damage happening.
I completely agree with
and now people are trying to roll that back. People are trying to create regulations, like probably way too late to try to fix some of these things.
Do you think we'll walk back social media?
Well, they're trying. I mean, they're trying to create, at the very least, restrictions and regulations to limit the use.
But do you think, like, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the average 15-year-old, so 20 years from now, is the average 15-year-old interacting with social media fundamentally different than a 15-year-old in 2015?
Yeah, I think so. Now, I mean, part of that is probably because there's going to be tools or apps or things that will occupy their time that we don't even know about now. But if you look at even like, we can talk about it right now as two people. Like Facebook was huge when we were in college, right? Totally. When we were in college, it was rolling out in Harvard and then across the country. Yep. Everyone was on Facebook all the time. I was posting photos. I've
been on Facebook so long, I was on thefacebook.com.
Right? Yeah, I remember when the wall. The wall and like when photos got enabled.
Poking people.
Oh, man. Yeah, so, but do you use Facebook as much now?
I do not use Facebook at all, and I literally run a podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's a social media tool, and I don't. Yeah,
right. And if you think about most of it, like, I think Twitter, I don't think they're public. Like, a lot of the usage data is probably not public, but I don't think people use Twitter as much. I don't think people use Facebook as much.
Not real people.
If
there's any numbers out, it's probably bots, right?
Yeah, right. Like, and you don't trust the numbers even if they did.
That's right. That's what I mean, yeah.
Instagram might be a little bit different, right? That seems to have some staying power, but I think at the very least people are recognizing like, hey, I could probably use social media a little bit less, or I want to use it a little bit less, as opposed to sort of accepting it as a societal like.
So then are we flirting with the idea that perhaps we are capable of correcting, even if we have to overstep first, and is perhaps that something that might be in our future with AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I'm worried about our ability to walk things back. And the other point that I was going to make, which will carry into this question, was that AI is, I know everyone says this, but AI is fundamentally different than past technologies in the way that it operates, in the nature of what it is. It's replicating or mimicking intelligence, which is just a fundamentally different thing. It's not a tool. It's a shed of tools. It's a shed of tools that uses its tools itself to go accomplish some task. So every comparison sort of falls short when you think about AI. That being said, like, will we be able to roll back social media use? I think people are trying and also acknowledging that there's a lot of downsides. I think regulation might be, you never know if lawmakers are going to get it together and impose some legislation that's actually like useful and practical and helpful. With AI, what I'm really worried about is it's going to be so hard to pull back because there's so much momentum and investment and hype building. It's almost going to be impossible to roll it back, right?
Isn't some of it failing though? Like the companies are investing like billions and billions and billions, and it's just like, it turns out.
Well, Sora, right? I mean, OpenAI released Sora. It was this revolutionary video generation. They just shuttered it like a week or two ago. It was a complete failure very quickly, like more quickly than you would think. But that doesn't mean that investment across the board in AI as a whole is slowing down. It's just increasing. Yeah. And that sort of pressure is creating a strong incentive for companies and people to do something with AI. Yeah. You can't invest $100 billion in AI tool or in teams or in companies and then just say, oh, this didn't work out. So leaders, individuals are going to be forced to adopt it and integrate it and find some way to create value out of it. Otherwise, all that investment is going to be for nothing.
Too sunk costs, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility of a bubble, right? But what I'm more worried about is forced adoption, forced integration, because business leaders are stuck with a bill. Like, here's what we've invested in AI. We need something to show for it. We're going to create those results either through forced adoption and efficiencies, or we're going to eliminate workforce and say it's because of AI so that we can show a better bottom line.
That's all the time we have for you on this week's episode. Joe and I ran long, old buddies, chumming it up. Come on, I can't blame it. But what I want to do is stick to my commitment to keep these episodes to bite-sized and digestible. So that was the first half of my talk with Joe. Join us next week for the thrilling conclusion. Such a smart, great, awesome dude. Really, really love this conversation. Don't miss next week's episode for part 2. But we will wrap this week here. Thank you to our sponsors, Rula, Excel Health, TrueHue, Montage Insurance Solutions, all the guys keeping the lights on. We're blessed to be here. Thank you guys for watching us every week. Join us next week. Join us every week. And until next week, make this the best week yet.